Hi everyone, this is Spring, the fiber enthusiast. So today we've got a mix match of a tutorial. We're going to use some beads, we're going to use a 3.5mm crochet hook, and our tatting needle, it's a number 5 tatting needle. We're also going to use 2 different color yarns. I will be using this ice yarn, which is a number 2 cotton, number 2 weight cotton. And I'm also going to be using the Oh Baby Organic by Lion Brand. It is also a number 2 cotton. So we're going to start with the body, and I'm going to do the body of this in the Oh Baby. So I'm going to set the crochet hook with it. Now for the beads, what I used was 6 string beads, which usually are a lot larger of a hole. And what you're looking for is, are you going to be able to pass your needle with the thread on it through the bead completely? So we'll go ahead and lace up this needle. And some people use a threading device and some people don't. I'm going to, just to make it quicker, and that way I don't have to argue with it. Okay, go ahead and pull yourself a little tail out of your tatting needle, and we're going to alternate these beads. So when you're looking at beads, you're going to want something that will slide on your needle that you're going to be using and pass over both strands of your tail thread fairly easy. So I've laced 1 small bead, and now I'm going to do a large bead, and you're going to alternate 1 small bead, 1 large bead, and you have 6 of both. So a total of 12 beads. And they can be whatever color you desire, whatever shape, just as long as you can pass them over your needle and 2 strands of thread easily. Up. There it went. Okay. So once you have your beads threaded onto your yarn to tat with, or your thread to tat with, that's good. You can set it aside. You can actually wait to do this until you're ready for it. I'm just gonna throw a little slip knot. See how it released? A slip knot in there, just so that way they don't come off or slide up and down until I'm ready for them. So I'm going to set them out of the way now. And the tatting needles that we're not using out of the way. And now we'll talk about this part of it, which could be the coaster or as I've demonstrated it laying over the top of the cup, that is completely up to you. This particular one starts in the center, and we increase every row until it is big enough to fit over the top of your mug or under your mug. I will tell you how many rows I do, and that way when you are adding your beads and your tatted area, if you're following along with me, you'll be able to add them to the same areas that I do, which is on these front post areas. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the center here. Go ahead and get your yarn of choice for center. You do not have to use two different colors. This just happens to be what I'm using. It'll help when we get to adding the tatted area. Go ahead and place a slip knot at the end. And I forgot to mention we're using a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. I'm using a Prim E. So once you have your slip knot on your crochet hook, you want to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now in this very first chain, we're going to place 11 double crochets. So at the end of round 1, you will have a total of 12 double crochets, including that very first chain 3. And you're going to want to start crocheting over your tail so that way you can cinch it tight. So we're just putting all 11 double crochets in that very first chain that you made of your chain 3. Go ahead and continue on until you have reached a total of 12 double crochets, and that includes your very first chain 3. I will meet back up with you when I have reached mine. Okay, once you have your 11 double crochets plus your chain 3, you want to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. And if you want to count back, you would just simply turn your work on its side and count each of these V's at the tops of your double crochet around, and make sure that you have a total of 12. Okay, so the next step is very easy. We're going to place a double crochet around this very first post, a front post double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook in between 2 posts, behind 1, and out between the next 2. Yarn over and pull that loop through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 more. Okay, and that'll be your first front post double crochet. Next, we're going to put a double crochet into that very next stitch. And front post around the next post. So every single stitch is an increasing stitch. So double crochet into your next stitch. Then double crochet around the next post. Double crochet into the next stitch, and front post double crochet around your next post. At the end of this round, you should have 24 double crochets, 12 front post and 12 double crochet. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and continue on around, placing 1 double crochet in every stitch and 1 double crochet front post double crochet around every post. I will meet up with you once I have reached the end and I have 24 stitches. Okay, I'm down to my last 2 stitches, so 1 front post. And this last stitch is a little difficult, but can get it in there. There we go. And then you're going to slip stitch to the top of that first front post double crochet that you made. And again, you should have 24 total stitches. The next round is another increasing round. First, I want to chain 1, 2, now front post double crochet around the next front post double crochet. Now place a double crochet into the stitch next to it. Place a double crochet into the next stitch. Double front post double crochet around the front post double crochet. So now we have 2 double crochets in between our front posts. Sorry, I keep bumping this camera. I have it extremely close for you to see. Okay, and again, double crochet into the next stitch. Double crochet into the next stitch, and then front post double crochet around that same stitch, the front post double crochet stitch. So all you're doing is placing a double crochet in both of those stitches between your front post on both sides, and then front post on every front post. So we'll do it again. This is how every round will be worked. Okay, go ahead and continue placing 1 double crochet in each of the stitches between your front post double crochets, and front post double crochet around that front post double crochet. Coming up to my last couple of stitches, and at the end of this row you should have 36 stitches total. So I've got a front post and a double crochet left. Okay, so I'm gonna place my double crochet right in to the next stitch, and that will give me 2 double crochets in between my front post. And let's go ahead and slip stitch to that top of that chain 2. So chain 2 and place a double crochet into the top of the next stitch, and front post double crochet around the front post double crochet, and double crochet into this next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, and front post double crochet around that same stitch, which is your front post double crochet from the row before. So as you can see, there is a pattern here. We're increasing every round, and the first round was 12. The next round was 24 with every other one front post double crochet and 1 double crochet in between. The next round was 36. 2 double crochets in between those 2 front posts. Now we're on to the next round, and there's 3 double crochets between those front posts. So go ahead and work your way around, placing 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, and 1 front post double crochet around that same front post double crochet from the previous row, and 3 more double crochets, and front post around the front post. Okay, continue on, and I will meet back up with you when I have come to the last couple of stitches. All right, so I've come up to my last 2 stitches, which is a front post double crochet and double crochet. Now we're going to slip stitch to the top of that first chain 2. And at the end of this round, you should have 48 stitches total. There we go. Okay, so again, we're going to continue working exactly the same. We are on round 4, we just completed. We're going to do 2 more rounds. Exactly the same way, you're increasing. So this time on round 4, you had 3 stitches in between your 2 front post double crochets. Now we're going to have 4 stitches. So chain 1 and 2, place a double crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, and front post double crochet around that same stitch, which is your front post double crochet from the row before. And you'll end this round with a front post double crochet and a double crochet into that last stitch right there, and then slip stitch to the top of that chain 2. That will give you your 4 stitches in between those 2 front post double crochets. So at the end of round 5, you will have a total of 60 stitches. At the end of round 6, you will have 72 stitches. Go ahead and continue on, and I will meet up with you at the end of round 6 where I'm at my last couple of stitches. All right, so here I am on the last round, round 6, and I've come up to my last couple of stitches, which is a front post double crochet and a double crochet into the last stitch. And now all we're going to do is slip stitch to the top of the chain 2, and slip stitch one more, so like you're chaining one. You should have a total of 72 stitches when you have reached the end of round 6. You can keep going like this if you'd like. This is plenty big enough for my huge mugs. You could have even stopped at round 5 probably for most standard size. But here we are, and now it has, with using the front post double crochet, it gives it a little bit of a ribbed nature, so that way if you use it as a coaster, it kind of elevates the cup just a little bit and keeps the direct heat straight off the table. So now you just want to sew in your end, just as if you were sewing in any other end to any of your other projects. Come back down through a few of these stitches to the previous row. That way I can kind of work through some of these, the bottoms of these double crochets, and not be trying to sew in my ends way up at the top. And I just pass the tail 3 or 4 different times through, and I use different loops when I pass it through. That's just how I sew in my ends. You do it however you feel confident that it's not going to come undone. Once I have it good enough that I'm comfortable, I mean, this isn't like going to be used a lot as far as like a garment would be, so you don't have to worry too much about the end coming out, except for when it's washed. Okay, so that is it for the coaster section. Next, we're going to start with our tatted. So let's go ahead and bring our tatting needle that we have already prepared with our beads on it. Go ahead and pull my slip knot out so it's ready to be used. And now you're going to use probably about 2 foot of tail to go around this project. What I did was I simply inserted my needle under both threads from the top of the stitch, just as if you were going to crochet through it. I stuck my needle through there, and I did it right, if you're looking down at this front post double crochet, I did it to my left, to the stitch just to the left. So pull that through and pull about 2 feet through. And once you have that through, go ahead and place just a simple knot. Like such, just to give it security. That way it's not all moving around. So with the large bead, we're going to do 10 double stitches. And if you need to know anything about tatting as far as how to make double stitches and picots and all of that, I have a full playlist with like 20 videos in it, and a lot of them are beginner tatting videos. The hows, the whys, and the how and the what's about it. So for those of you that do know how to needle tat, we're going to move on and place 10 double stitches. So I'm going to move rather quickly and not demonstrate each and every single stitch because I have videos that cover that. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and slide our work down just a hair here so we have more room to work. And slide your first large bead down to your work and do 10 more double stitches on the other side of that bead. Make sure it's not too snug. You don't want it too loose, but you don't want it too snug. You don't want it to get all crunched together. So there's one double stitch that kind of holds the bead in place. And go ahead with 10 double stitches total after your first bead. And you might have to slide your work down because there's a lot of stitches there. You double check. Okay, so I have 10 double stitches, bead 10 double stitches. We're going to go ahead and pull our tail thread through. Every single one of these are arches, so we don't have to worry about making rings. And you're going to just kind of work this off of your needle slowly, because that is a lot of stitches. Okay, once you've got your needle head through and the start of your tail, you can grab hold of that tail and start pulling it a little bit faster. Okay. Now what you're going to want to do is make sure that you lay your work flat before you completely finish off by tying a knot. And go ahead and work the stitches out just a little bit so that way your bead hangs nice and neatly at the bottom and it's not all bulged up together. Okay. And what you're attempting to do is kind of get everything lined up to connect right before the next front post double crochet. So that's our goal, is to work to the stitch before each front post double crochet. That's why there's 12 front post double crochets and 12 beads. So once you have it all worked out and it seems to be laying decent, go ahead and insert your needle again to that stitch before your next front post double crochet. Pull your tail thread through and place a simple knot. And we are going to be working from left to right around. So there's no turning your work over. We're just going to go straight on to the next bead here. So once you have it secured, go ahead and place 5 double stitches. Once you have your 5 double stitches, bring up your next bead, which should be a smaller bead if you are following along with me. Slide your work down onto your needle and place 5 more double stitches. Again, caring for your bead that you don't over tighten around it. Okay, once you have 5 double stitches, bead 5 double stitches, go ahead and pull your tail thread through. And again, lay it down and kind of space everything out. And this one is going to be tighter, of course, than your first one that you did. That's the goal. That's what we're after. So make sure everything's nice and neat and even. And then again, you're going to attach to the stitch before your next front post double crochet row. Go ahead and pull that up. Again, just check everything over, make sure it looks nice and even, and then place a simple knot. Just like that. And now we're back to the 10 double stitches, bead 10 double stitches. Go ahead and get some more yarn out here. Try to get them beads to quit making so much noise. All right. Here we go, 10 double stitches. Slide another big bead down. Slide your work down on your needle to make room. And 10 more double stitches. Once again, you're going to gently pull that tail thread through. Okay, and again, stretch everything out. Kind of make everything nice and symmetrical. I try to make my loops match in size. Make sure and give room for that bead to lay straight. Okay. So now we'll just attach again to the stitch before the front post double crochet, just by slipping that needle through the stitch, pulling your tail thread through. I'm doing it from the back side of my work to the front. That way we're just working around and not turning our work over or anything of that nature. And then you'll place a simple knot. Like that. And we'll do one more of the small beads together, which is 5 double stitches, bead, 5 double stitches. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now slide your small bead down and 5 more double stitches on the other side of it. The biggest thing is you don't want to over tighten the stitches on either side of the bead, otherwise you're going to have a lot of puckering and twisting. Three, 4, and 5. And that's all there is to this. You just continue to lay it down, pull everything back apart, because you kind of cinch it down tight when you pull your tail thread through, so you kind of got to stretch everything out a little bit, and then go ahead and tie off to that next spot. And you hear my dog dreaming. Okay, so you just tie down to that next stitch before the very next front post double crochet and place a simple knot, and you just continue doing that same repeat all the way around until you have reached the end over here. And once you have reached the end over here, you're just going to you're just going to slip stitch to the same spot that your very first arch and bead come from, and then sew in your ends. I will meet up with you when I have reached that point. Okay, figured I'd come back for this very last bead here. Which is a small bead, so 5 double stitches, small bead, 5 double stitches. And we'll pull that tail thread through one last and final time. Set your work down. Again, make sure everything's nice and symmetrical. And now we're going to join into that same stitch that we started from. So we're joining right into the same stitch. Now I'm going to go under the original, the very first thread. I'm going to insert my needle and go under it. And now I'm going to place a square knot. and sew in my ends. So I'm going to go up through the stitches. I'm on the back of my work. I'm going to go through the stitches on my left arch with the big bead, with the tail that is going that direction. I'm going to go ahead and pull that tail up into them stitches. Cut that off. Work it so that way the tail is down into them double stitches and not visual to the naked eye here. And this is how I always do my second tail that's coming from my working ball of yarn. I leave it attached to the working ball of yarn until I'm ready for it. And now I insert my needle into those double stitches on the opposite side, which is where the small bead is, and I go ahead and take that needle all the way down to the eye of the needle, and what I'm going to do is cut a short tail, not very long, just long enough to thread the needle threader or the eye of the needle. So see, I have hardly any tail thread here at all. I'm going to go ahead and pull that tail thread up into them double stitches, remove my needle, tighten it down good and tight, snip off that little tiny bit, and loosen them double stitches back up a little bit so they cover that up. And while I'm here, I will cinch down the center of the coaster itself and sew in that in, just like that. And there you have your little coaster or cup cover. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought. Is this something that you might make, or you made it along with me? If you have made it, I'd love to see it over on our Facebook group or through an email, or even tagged in Instagram. All of those links will be in the description box below. If you need any help with tatting, there will be a playlist at the end of this video that will go back to a full playlist of needle tatting. All of the ins and outs that you need to know to accomplish this. What tools you need, what kind of thread or yarn. Okay, everybody. I greatly appreciate you watching. Please be blessed and be a blessing. Until next time, bye.